I'm glad to be here. Thanks to Father Robbie, many years of cooperation. And I actually prepared a paper today about the role of Judaism in promotion peace and harmony in the world. And I think it's a big thing to be with you today. You are people who promoted so much this harmony of interfaith around the globe. So first of all, I am expressing here my deep appreciation and thankfulness to your cultural center, Chavara, and to you, Dr. Robbie, Father Robbie. And my part is to throw some light and open some windows about Jewish identity in order to start or to continue a process of mutual exchanges of ideas, experiences, and open dialogue between Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and other denominations. On its face, the subject of Judaism and Jewish identity should not count for much in the world. There are worldwide some 2 billion Christians, 1.5 billion Muslims, and many other denominations, compared to about only 15 million Jews around the globe. Throughout the world, the Jews as a tiny minority surrounded by non-Jewish cultures are less than 0.25% of the population of the world. In the terms of the members, our influence should be minimal. The number of Jews in the world is smaller now than a small statistical error in the Chinese census, for example. Yet, I dare to say that Jews and Judaism are of interest and even influence in a way that cannot be accounted for in terms of members alone. We remain bigger than our numbers. Big things seem to happen around us and to us. Judaism can be considered as the foundation of Christianity and Islam, that the roots of Christianity and Islam are tightly connected with Jewish religion. My challenge is here to contribute through few minutes to a better and a wider understanding of the historical development of Jewish identity. Let me start, please, with a set of criteria for judging the Jewishness of a particular person. Maybe I can speak about 5 such criteria. One is faith. Jewishness belongs only to those who believe in the one God as related in the Torah, in the Old Testament. This view advocates conversion and denies heritability in those who do not believe. Second aspect or criteria, cultural. Jewishness belongs to those who practice Jewish customs and maintain Jewish traditions. This view allows conversion to Judaism in principle, allows for heritable transmission from both the mother and the father. Number 3, personal. Jewishness exists in those who declare themselves Jewish. This view places the identity of the individual above all things, even above the majority view of the group. Number 4, ethnic. Jewishness passes from parent to child. This view holds that the central element of Jewish identity is ancestry. Conversion is impossible, as one cannot change his ethnicity. And number 5, maternal. Jewishness passes from mother to child. This is the view prevalent among modern-day Orthodox and many conservatives, Jews of most varieties. Most allow for the possibility of conversion, but such instances are relatively rare. Faith is not a prerequisition for membership. We, the Jewish people, we are an ancient people, twice as old as Christianity, 3 times old as Islam. And if history teaches us anything, it is that Judaism survived not by numbers, but by the quality and strength of the first criteria, the faith. Faithful people who were always too obstinate to let go of God and too obstinate to be defeated by history. But we need the historical background shortly. And if not at the beginning of the Jewish time, let me begin my account at least at the beginning of the modern Jewish time, on the year 1789, the year of the French Revolution and the birth of the modern secular nation state. On August 26, 1789, the French Assembly issued its Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen, with its famous opening, "All men are born and remain free." Why they equal? Were they equal? Were they citizen? Were they men? 1 century after the revolution, it was a journalist from Vienna, Theodor Herzl, who covered the Dreyfus trial, and Herzl came to the conclusion that there was no future for the Jews in Europe, and that the secular nation state had given anti-Semitism a new and terrible rebirth, and that there was no future for the Jewish people unless they constructed a nation state of their own. The birth of enlightenment in Europe presented European Jews with a messianic promise and demonic reality. The promise was a secular order in which anti-Jewish prejudice would be overcome and Jewish civil disabilities abolished. The reality was, the more assimilated the Jews became, the more anti-Semitism grew. The Jews were accused to be then too ruthless and cosmopolitan. The extreme response of many Jews in the 19th century was flight from Jewish identity through outmarriage, conversion to Christianity, of the declaration of being religiousless if possible. In general, the Jews of modern Europe decided in favor of Judaism as religion without peoplehood. The Jews of Eastern Europe was wrong. There have been only 3 periods of Jewish sovereignty in 4,000 years. 2 ended in, and because of internal dissension, the First and the Second Temple. The Third Age of Sovereignty began in 1948 in the State of Israel. There is the question of Jewish identity and continuity. Several surveys of young Israelis in past years have shown an alarming lack of knowledge or interest in the Jewish heritage. Before the beginning of the 19th century, all Jews regarded Judaism as a privilege, since the most Jews have come to regard that if they to regard it as a burden, Jewishness to be a burden. Let's consider now some definitions of Jewish identity today in Israel. The famous writer who passed away, Amos Oz, very famous in Israel and around the globe, defined it as in living in a secular democratic state guided by the principles of enlightenment. In the USA, in 1988, in answer to survey, 59% replied to the questions, which qualities do you consider most important to you or to your Jewish identity? 59% replied a commitment to social security, equality. Only 17% choose religious observance. People, the Jews, whose very reason for being in the past was to be different, chosen, particular, defined itself now as purely universalistic term. What is remarkable about both the Israeli and American Jews communities is that in both countries, Jews are markedly now more secular than Christians or Muslim neighbors. For 4,000 years, Jews were a people in search of God. Today, Jews, more than any other group in Western world, are a people trying to escape from God. And it's a pity. Given the pain and tragedy of the Jewish life for the past 2 centuries, indeed the past 2 millennia, that is not surprising. But it suggests that the crisis of Jewish continuity is due not to the future, but precisely the success of Jewish strategies. As the Talmud, which was finished some 15 centuries ago, records of a much earlier crisis in Jewish life during the Hadrianic persecutions, writing the following: by rights, we should issue a decree not to get married and not to have children, and to let the seed of Abraham come to an end of its own accord. What Jewry faces today is failure of the will that sustained the Jews, our ancestors across the generations. Their willingness to be human by being different and thus testifying to the dignity of difference. I'm close to finish in a few minutes. What is likely to be the outcome? There is a difference between prediction and prophecy. I am full of hope. I see a new generation of Jews emerging with an undamaged, uncomplicated sense of Jewish identity. They recognize Judaism's spiritual power and moral grandeur, moral task, moral responsibility. They are searching for personal meaning, moral guidance, stability, and structure in their lives. They are beginning to reconnect with Jewish observations and Talmud Torah, which means the study of the Jewish texts. Almost every adult education program in the world, from Israel to America, to India, to England, to Europe, everywhere, South America, represents nowadays a greater subscription. The demand for Jewish day schools is increasing in many parts of the world, in the USA, in Europe, in South America, in Asia, in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, not speaking about Israel for sure. This new Jewish generation, who so personally may be committed more to orthodoxy, is more interested in opening the source of Judaism to everyone, more than building defensive walls. At long last, it was began moving behind the victorious sources of Jewish identity, which is anti-Semitism, the Holocaust, as I said, and support for the state of Israel, toward a genuine personal encounter with the elements of Judaism that made it a source of inspiration for 100 generations, namely its love of family, community, education, and philanthropy, its way of translating abstract ideal into simple daily process. The permitted food, kasher, the Shabbat, the sabbatical observing the holiness of Saturday, the sanctity of family life, and choreography of Kedusha, holiness, of Jewish holiness and difference. Demographically, Jewish communities are small, very small. I think in India we have now about 15,000, no more. In many other parts, small communities. Their continuation and further existence depends on religion observance and a core of religious commitment from one hand, and very high standard of moral and human values from the other end. Maybe this commitment and those high standards of moral and human values are the key elements in the continuation and further existence of all religious, Abrahamic and other religions. Our young generation all over the world expects challenges, moral tolerance, human religious and open-minded religious leaders will make religion very attractive for the young generations. Religions as bridges between people, not as obstacles. Different religions and not necessarily a superficial and artificial unity. Just before including, allow me to add one remark, a personal one, about the Jewish-Muslim dialogue. I came to study Islamic studies and Arabic language about 60 years ago. I am now 77. I began studying Arabic when I was 14. I came from an East European family who had no contacts at all with Islamic culture and Islamic studies. Through my studies and my daily work, I realized how deep, serious, and fruitful for both Jews and Muslims was the dialogue, and still is, between Jews and Muslims. Through the medieval era, the golden age for Jews and Muslims in Spain and North Africa. A dialogue without turning the other down, without leading the different or erasing the specific religious components. It gives all of us a lot of hope that the dialogue will be implemented again successfully between Muslims and Jews all over the world, and specifically in our region in the Middle East, but worldwide. Our work here in this week of harmony and interfaith dialogue will help to build this human, permissive, tolerant religious dialogue. Thank you all, and thank you, Father Robbie.